Mr. Chairman, the legislation today, as you mentioned, it has a unanimous consent agreement and expect this package to move forward. I mentioned last time this committee met, this committee has jurisdiction over energy. We are the Natural Resources Committee. I want to read a quote from the Secretary of Energy who says, on March 9th of this year, so yes, right now we need oil and gas production to rise to meet current demand. Yet all you've heard this administration do is go out there and members of Congress in this committee go out there and blame Vladimir Putin for the gas hikes and electricity hikes, to go blame 9,000 permits that are sitting around as if people with record oil prices would sit on stock and not want to produce it and sell it at the highest price they can. Mr. Chairman, this administration, when President Biden was campaigning, he said, quote, "We're going to phase out fossil fuels." He said, quote, "I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuels." Let me say that again. I guarantee you we're going to end fossil fuels is what President Biden said. The Secretary of Interior, who sat right there at that table, said, quote, "I'm wholeheartedly against fracking and drilling on public lands." Mr. Chairman, members of this committee, all these names right there on that side of the aisle, on your side of the aisle, they voted against an amendment that we proposed, in fact, multiple times, that said that the legislation that this committee was pushing could not result in an increased dependence upon energy from Russia, energy from China, or other oil cartels. You voted against it. All the Democrat members of this committee voted against it. Yet what happened? Under this administration, we saw a 161% increase in dependence upon Russian crude oil. We offered an amendment that said that the legislation can't result in increased reliance on energy imports. What happened? Every member, yourself, and Democrat members of this committee opposed it. We proposed an amendment. Here you all are touting yourselves as environmentalists. We proposed an amendment that said that your energy policies could not result in increased global emissions, because what happens when you overly restrict activities in the United States, as you have done and this administration has done, it results in more activities overseas that, as Mr. Obernolte mentioned a little while ago, is contrary to environmental goals, because not only does it give people pink slips in the United States, it increases global emissions. Your side voted against it. And of course, the amendment that said that you could not increase energy costs for economically disadvantaged communities or increase the likelihood of energy poverty, your members voted against it. Congress Daily, just today, Congress falters in bid to ease pain at the pump. Headline today in Congress Daily, no, National Journal Daily, excuse me. This isn't a Republican publication, as you well know. I remind you, Mr. Chairman, we have a Democrat Speaker of the House, we have a Democrat Senate Majority Leader, and we have a Democrat President. When they say Congress falters, let's be very clear on who it is that they're talking about. The reason that we have people at home that cannot afford to fuel their vehicles, that cannot afford to pay their electricity bills. By some measure, we've seen numbers saying that 1 in every 4 Americans are having to sacrifice other priorities in order to cover energy bills. These are self-inflicted costs. And let me say it again. This White House and members of your side are out there saying, oh, this is a result of permits. This is a result of Vladimir Putin. This is the result of energy companies being greedy. If I wanted to make money, I'd be selling every drop of oil at these inflated prices that your policies have created. And so you create false narrative, false excuses, false examples, and then you don't legislate on them, but we rename parks and convey land. This committee has jurisdiction over solving the problem, over providing relief to those families that are struggling to make ends meet right now. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, it would result in lower global emissions. I agree with Secretary Granholm, who says we need to increase energy production to meet demand. We need to increase energy production to meet demand. That's what we need to be doing right now. 70 colleagues sent a letter to President Biden last year on June 7th saying, hey, don't waive these Nord Stream 2 pipelines. It took Putin going into Ukraine in order for that to happen. The president in his budget request explicitly says He's going to ban any Corps of Engineers project. Could be for flood protection. People aren't going to get flood protection if the project also results in lower cost for oil and gas. Lower cost for oil and gas. In other words, he wants prices to go up, and it's exactly what we're seeing. Mr. Chairman, look, I'm not going to tell you that our bills are perfect or our ideas are perfect, but I would like to ask you, Mr. Chairman, if you would make a commitment to bring up energy legislation that will help to relieve the price at the pump, the price that the electricity bills our folks are experiencing today, including, Mr. Chairman, I'd love to get your thoughts and work with you on legislation that would include renewable energy.